Now we're going to go into the select board meeting. So again, this select board meeting is held by Zoom and with the same instructions that we gave at the beginning. And we can go on to the first agenda item on this. Hang on one second. Let me move around all my papers. The first we have is Library Director Uma Hirmath to talk to us about her retirement.
So while Uma is getting moved in, it's appropriate that the name is Ames Free Library because she's become ubiquitous with the institution. So the way the library is structured is slightly different than most. It's not technically a town department. They have a board of directors that hires the executive director. The town appoints half of that board. We work collaboratively with them, but the board of directors set that policy, and the executive director, in this case Uma, really take the ball and run with managing the library. And we're all certainly sad to see Uma go, and I hope she'll have some awesome presentation momentarily, because she has certainly earned that reputation internally with colleagues. It started as a running joke, and then it just became more and more serious over time. But when we have department head meetings, people don't want to sit behind Uma, because we go around and ask for updates from every single person, and no one wants to go after Uma because she finds a way to make the work of the library, which is of course exciting and fulfilling, but she is such an incredible advocate for the value of the library, not just as an institution of knowledge and learning and of free access to those things, regardless of people's socioeconomic status. Uma has seen the expansion of the library in both capital and physical senses, with the Queesit Garden and the Queesit House, and the expansion and bringing it into the 21st century of the Library of Things, and an incredibly hard salesman. And if, trying to get you in there for podcasting and lectures, and if you aren't careful, you end up on bookmarks where she shows up and takes photos of you, not telling you why, at meetings. Anything and everything to get the government involved in the community and vice versa, and has just done such an incredible job. She's brought international, of course, local. Everyone loves the library, but it's known well throughout the state and the industry. And it is internationally recognized for how phenomenal it is, and Uma deserves a huge amount of the credit for that. Obviously, she has a great team, but she's been just incredible, and we're all going to miss her terribly. So Uma, that's my best intro for you. That I feel like I can't do it justice because you've done such a good job. But thanks for coming in.
Connor, I heard a rumor she's going to pull a Tom Brady here tonight.
I spent 45 minutes at home, and I've decided.
No, Jamie. The only reason is because my last day of work is on April Fool's Day, of course. So that's where that rumor stems from. No, it's been a few years in the making, but when Connor, no pressure, Connor, when you say things like that. After that overflow of sewage that I was listening to, I said, that's going to be a hard act to follow, but really, it made me realize that all you select board, the things that you do for us, really, it's very, very heartwarming to see, and to see democracy in action, because as Connor knows, I always present the library as a bastion of exactly that for the community. I think of it very much as a community space. But Easton has blown me out, as I mentioned at the last town department head meeting. My career plan was every 5 years I'll be moving on. And then, of course, I come to Easton, and my heart just breaks and falls in love, and then I don't leave. And I always think of Garrison Keillor because, of course, I'm a librarian and I have to bring in an author. And you know what he says about Lake Wobegon, his fictional place, where the women are all strong and the men are all good looking and the children are all above average. That to me has been Easton. I mean, literally every step of the way. It's been a joyride. There's not a day I think I can remember that I've got up saying, oh, I have to go to work. It's, it's just been a joy. And I have stayed more than double the time that I had planned and enjoyed every minute of it. And the wonderful part, as Kana mentioned, is that it's been a golden team, both in terms of the board, the staff, the town support, and the community that has come in droves, 300 to 500 people a day that we see. And it's a great institution. And that building, my God, you can't get sexier than that. I mean, I every time I look up from my desk and I look at all that wood and I say, what a great place to be. So we have a lot to be proud about. And so thank you all. Thank you from the absolute bottom of my heart. It has, you all have been wonderful to me, and I have thoroughly enjoyed every day of my almost 14 years in this library.
Thank
And
you.
talking about teams, our assistant director, Ian Dunbar, has been there over a decade, and he will be taking over, not on the 1st of April, so I was good enough to make it the 4th of April, so he couldn't have that on his head. And for those of you who have kids and have gone for Miss Jessica's story times or seen her on the hundreds of videos that she posted right through the COVID, she's going to take over as assistant director. And it's going to be great. We have a brand new future ahead of us.
That's great. Craig, your comments.
Well, I told Uma, I asked Uma when I saw her the last time about whether or not if we denied her request to retire from the library, whether that would have any impact on her decision. And she told me, no, it wouldn't, that she was ready to move on. I have always, in the 3 years that 3 years, 4 years, whatever it's been, how long I've been on the board, I have always looked forward to and enjoyed your presentation at our budget day, because it is you're so enthusiastic and so creative and so thoughtful that it's just been a joy to watch you do that. And I appreciate everything that you've done for the library and for the town of Easton. And I wish you all the success in the world going forward.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Amy.
I just have two things. I thought at the Chamber of Commerce meeting recently, or dinner, that if I chatted Uma up long enough and gave her a chance and people just kind of kept bringing libations, we might get a Tom Brady moment. It didn't happen, but and I will say that the first time I ever was part of a presentation or got to be in the attendance of one of your presentations was a joint finance committee select board meeting at Frothingham Hall before we went into COVID lockdown, and what a treat. And yes, I looked forward from there on to all of your presentations. So thank you for all you do for our community, for my children, with a 7, 9, and 11-year-old that all have their library cards and have had them since they could write their name on their card. And such a staple in a place for our family to go with regularity. So thank you so much. What a wonderful thing you've done for all of us.
I will pass that to the staff, Jamie. That's great to hear.
And Jen.
I was having the same recollections of those exciting joint committee meetings where Uma would come up and we'd be like, wow, what is she going to show us this time? Is it a microscope or some cool new thing? And I'd get home and husband would say, how was the meeting? I'd say, guess what the library has that we had no clue we had access to. And Uma, it's awesome. And it's a testament to the hard work that you and your staff under your leadership have put in place, where the library is just such it's a major piece of our community. And it's one of my family's favorite places in the community. And we're blessed to live walking distance. So our first couple summers here when the kids were real little, we would just walk up to the library and spend time in there wandering around the kids section. It was a big part of their growth and development when they were real little. And you are just truly an inspiration and a tour de force. And from the events to the spaces you create, to the resources you brought on, the only consolation, I said this was Chief Sullivan, it's the same, with you, the only consolation is knowing that you've built an incredible foundation, so that, even though I really am having a hard time accepting that you'll be retiring. So thank you, Uma.
Oh, thank you, Jennifer. Thank you for that. Oh, keep in mind the karaoke machines. All of you with kids, really. It's a game changer for your children's parties. You check it out like a book, set it up, and the kids go wild.
My littlest would be going crazy for that.
Well, I would just add, the library is a building and it's a beautiful building, but it's just a building. And the people in it, like you and your staff, really make it welcoming, make it fun. There's always something new. There's always something I'm learning about the library. And there's just so much to offer in so many different ways between the library and the Queesit House and the beautiful garden, just to go back and enjoy the property, the bocce court. And I've just gotten to know you so well over the years, and I'm going to really miss you personally and professionally, and hope that we'll stay in touch somehow and our paths will cross again, and maybe there'll be volunteer opportunities for you to come back when you're ready.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dottie. I've always thanked Dottie, because I go into those budget meetings and then I lose myself and I'm talking of all sorts of things and I forget the important stuff. And Dottie says, and the library also, and she'll bring in that pertinent point. So thank you all. It's as I said, for once, Connor, I am a little gobsmacked. So as I said, it really has been, it has been great. It's been great. And to all of you in Easton, the community, you know how much I've enjoyed you. So yes, I will definitely come back.
Well, savor your last few days, and we will be very supportive of Ian and Jessica and the rest of your staff. And we want to see them be successful, and we're excited to work with them as well.
I can assure you of that, yes. All right.
All right. Thank you, Uma.
Thank you, Uma.
Thank you, Uma.
Bye.
Okay, next we have a road closing request for the Children's Museum in Easton. The Children's Museum is asking for permission to close a portion of Sullivan Avenue beginning at the southernmost edge of the museum's property, adjacent to the edge of the museum's garage driveway, and continuing northward to the terminus of Sullivan Avenue as it intersects with Mechanic Street from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. for the Father's Day 5K road race and family fun walk on June 19th, 2022. It's actually the 26th Father's Day 5K road race. So representatives from the museum will place bright orange traffic cones and post signage to delineate the event space. Staff will wear bright orange safety vests and plan to secure 2 police details on the day of the event. There will also be the presence of EMT and appropriate equipment. The request has been circulated to Public Safety and the Department of Public Works, and the recommendation is to approve the road closing. Per usual, the applicant must apply for any necessary temporary sign permits through the Inspectional Services Department. So we vote on this every year. It's exciting. I know some of the people on this call run that race. I sit on my front steps on Father's Day morning and watch all the runners run by and wave to them. So excited that they're able to do that again this year. And it's so exciting to see these things come back again, that haven't been able to happen for the past couple of years. So if anybody has any comments or questions. All right, Craig, you want to make the motion?
I move to approve the Children's Museum of Easton's request for road closure on Sunday, June 19th, 2022.
Second, Stebbins.
Barger and Stebbins, back to you, Craig.
Barger, yes.
Stebbins, yes.
Stacy, yes.
And Phil Genetti, yes. All right, and the next one is a one-day liquor license, Frank Altieri, for a private party at the Shoveltown Brewery, 50 Oliver Street, Northeastern, March 26th from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. Frank has applied for a one-day beer and wine liquor license for a private party to be held. As noted, a police detail is not required. Would you like to make the motion, Craig?
This is for the Shoveltown Road Race, I believe, the party for the road race. So I move to approve the one-day liquor license for Shoveltown Brewery on March 26th from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m.
Second, Stebbins.
Barger and Stebbins,
Barger, yes.
Stebbins, yes.
Stacy, yes.
and Phil Genetti, yes. Great. Next is the Cultural Council appointments. We have a volunteer application submitted by Nora Carey for an open seat on the Easton Cultural Council. We have the charge of the council in the packet, so I'm just going to read. Let me just see if I can get to the guts of this really quick because it's quite long. I guess I'll summarize it myself and say the Cultural Council gets money from the Massachusetts Cultural Council, and once a year they take applications from the community for arts and culture opportunities, and then they grant out that money to those different organizations. So really, that's what they look for is to really help our local artists with funding and support. So we have Nora Carey. Nora, thanks for being here with us tonight.
Hello, thank you
Thank you
for having me.
So if you want to just briefly just tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're interested. You have an incredible resume for this particular volunteer position. So
Yeah, I moved here about 2.5 years ago, right before COVID. So I've been in lockdown for a lot of the time that I've lived here. I wanted to get more involved in the community, and I have a background in science. That's what I'm trained in, and I work for a pharmaceutical company. I have a huge interest in the arts, and I take lots of art classes when I have time. I used to have a lot more time, but I have 2 little ones right now, so I don't have as much time to dedicate, but I've taken watercolor and sommelier and knitting, crocheting, pottery, a ton of different art classes, because I feel like it's an important outlet in people's lives and an important outlet in my life. I also love music, and I played saxophone for 12 years when I was younger. So I felt like this was a really good opportunity for me to volunteer for the town because of my background and my vested interest in, providing these events to the community. And, now that we're coming out of COVID and restrictions are lifted, I'm sure there's going to be a lot more events planned. And I thought this was a good time to get involved.
great. Thank you so much, Nora. Craig, do you have any questions or comments?
I don't have any questions, but I in reading your resume, I sensed the enthusiasm for art. I thought it was terrific. And so I'm very pleased that you have decided to volunteer. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Jamie?
Yeah, I'll just second that. Thank you very much, Nora, for stepping up to volunteer and bringing such a wonderful cultural background to this program. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jen?
Agreed. It's a wonderful background, was a great fit for this role. So thank you for volunteering to step up.
Thank you.
And we love to see new faces, new perspectives, and Easton's really just so blessed to have such great volunteers in our community. We have hundreds of volunteers. We have so many committees, and it just always makes me happy to see a new face that wants to join these great committees. So thank you for volunteering. So with that, Craig, if you'd like to make a motion, this is a motion, a second, and then a roll call vote.
Right. A motion to appoint Nora Carey to the Cultural Council.
Second, Stebbins.
So that's Barger and Stebbins.
Barger Carey.
Stebbins Carey.
Casey Carey.
And Fulgenetti Carey. So congratulations, Nora, and you'll get an email from the town clerk's office about swearing in and when the next dates of the meetings are. And now that we've seen your face, I'm sure we'll see you all over town and hope to meet you in person soon.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much. Nice
You're
to meet
very
all of
welcome.
you.
Have a good night.
Thanks, you too.
Okay, next item 6, a vote to accept a gift to the police department from Richard Tucker Memorial Fund. The Easton Police Department has recently received a donation from Ms. Karen Tucker and the Richard Tucker Memorial Fund Incorporated. We have a letter in our packet from Chief Sullivan to Ms. Tucker and family, thanking them for their support. And attached also is a memo from Chief Sullivan requesting consideration of the generous gift. Does anybody have any comments or questions on this?
Very generous of the Tuckers.
Jamie?
Sorry, I was just reviewing the letter as well. Thank you. No questions or comments, and thanks to the Tuckers. Very, very generous.
And Jen?
Also extending gratitude to the Tuckers. Thank you. No questions.
Terrific. Well, we do thank them, and I'm sure that it will go to good use. The police really appreciate these generous donations. So with that, Craig, if you'd like to make a motion.
I'd like to move to accept the generous donation from the Richard Tucker Memorial Fund to the police department.
Second, Stebbins.
Barger, yes.
Stebbins, yes.
Stacy, yes.
And Full Janetti, yes. All right, and next we have a contract award with Full Circle Technology for Permit Eyes, the online permitting system upgrade.
Sure, thank you, Dottie. So there's a memo in your packet from the Director of Planning and Economic Development, Stephanie Danielson. She and the Building Commissioner, Kevin Greiner, two of the busiest permitting departments, have been working together since the fall town meeting when funding was appropriated to update and replace all of our existing online permitting modules with one unified system from the same software provider. And this is the contract to get that moving. So this would fund a complete upgrade of all of our existing online permitting modules. So we have all of our administrative, so our staff, inspectional agencies, and our boards, planning, Concom, zoning, select board, the Board of Health, all do permits online. This started all the way back in 2008 with Stephanie back then as a conservation agent leading that for the Conservation Commission. And then earlier in the 2010s, we started moving the other boards onto that 2008 platform. We were one of the first communities our size, certainly, to move all of our processes from the antiquated paper format to online. But since then, obviously, a lot of time has passed. And now the system is showing its age. And it's time for an upgrade. This will bring a lot of user focused experiences, namely right now, because we incrementally built these out over many years. You need to duplicate your logins for every single one of these boards and committees because we had just conservation, then we have conservation and building, and then we started adding others. So that's not a huge deal, but it's certainly not the level of usability that users expect with online services in 2022. So this will create a unified login portal that has access to every single type of permitting agency in the town, which is particularly important for smaller businesses or folks who don't have engineers and attorneys who know exactly what agency they're going to. So this will it'll streamline that process on the front end. Similarly, on the back end, staff will have unified logins. It will ensure that we have quality process, make sure that we're not missing reviews. You know, one of the questions just came up. How do we make sure that if a department on this side of town management gets a permit for something, that the appropriate engineers of DPW are looking at sewer capacity and all these things? So it makes sure that we have more reliable, thorough, and efficient ability to review and administer permits and keep those things moving. This is something that's very important for economic development. Reliability, predictability, and the kind of understandability of permitting is a huge, huge driver of whether or not folks want to go through the process of opening a business or not, or improving their property or not. It also helps with compliance because the simpler it is for folks to pull a permit, the more likely they are to do it in the first place. So we're excited about it. It'll take quite some time to build this out. We'll be working on it throughout this year. There's a quite lengthy scope of services in there. But Dottie is probably much more qualified to speak to than I am, given her line of work. But this will bring us to where we need to be to keep moving forward and have a better experience for everyone.
Craig, questions, comments?
I saw the upgrade cost was $107,160, but they also indicated an annual cost for certain parts of it. That's not built into the $107,000? That's something additional?
Correct. So in addition, there's an upfront cost for the construction, basically, and the implementation of the software, and then you pay ongoing fees for server maintenance. This is all cloud-based, so we're not maintaining this data or the attachments, which can be pretty substantial, particularly when you look at things like planning board and Concom. You know, folks are uploading full quality CAD conversions of engineered plans, and they also provide technical support around the clock for that. So there's an annual cost that gets carried. All of our operating budgets carry those fees already, and this was the case before the upgrade. So that will continue to be the routine.
Okay, thank you.
Jamie?
No questions. Thank you.
Jen?
No questions. Thank you.
So one other thing that I did want to mention is that this does integrate with our GIS system, which is Geographical Interface System, otherwise known as mapping software. So if anybody has ever gone onto the website and wanted to look at precincting or things like that, that's an example of the GIS. Or probably the best known example is when we have the snow and we identify the fire hydrants and ask people to tag which fire hydrants they've shoveled out. So that GIS mapping is really important too, and integrating this all together. We've also gotten lots of calls specifically from contractors, because if you think about it, the contractors up at the crack of dawn, they're getting out to their customer sites. They don't have time to be coming back and forth to the town hall. So they do this all online, and then they get the permit like electronically. So it saves them a lot of time from coming to town hall. It makes it a lot more efficient for them. So we've gotten really good feedback from people about the permitting. I'm really happy that the town continues to fund this, because I think there's a great value in it, and particularly for economic development. So Craig, if you want to make a motion on that.
I'll make a motion to approve the upgrade cost of $107,160.
Stebbins.
So that's
Barger, yes.
Stebbins, yes.
Casey, yes.
And full Janetti, yes. Terrific. So next up is the Department of Public Works presentation for the fiscal year 2022 pavement management. And we have David Field here.
We do. We have no pun intended. It's the Dayfield Roadshow. You have a handful of items back to back to back to back, covering what we did this year, what we're doing the next 3 years, and then some important contracts. So have at it, Dave.
I'm always happy to join the roadshow. Good evening, everyone. Let me share my screen and we'll just plug right in here. Everyone see that okay?
Yes.
Okay. Maximize this. All right, so here to talk about our road projects, both what we've been doing over the last year, what we plan to do, and I jumped ahead a little, what pavement management is, really briefly, and then some other road projects that aren't related to pavement management. So what is pavement management? Most of you have seen this, so I'm not going to go too long on it, but basically it's doing the right thing at the right time, in the right place, the right way. It allows us to make timely maintenance repairs to avoid more expensive and extensive repairs later on. And these are the things that weigh into our pavement management system. The road surface rating, which is a detailed rating of every street in Easton in all the extents of those defects, the extent and severity, what the traffic volume on those roads are, what construction methods we're using, and where the road surface rating relates to each street, which construction method is recommended, what our budget is, and then we use a software package to tie that all up. So with that out of the way, FY 2022, which is calendar year 2021, last year's roads. As you can see on the photo, that is us applying a rubber chip seal to Blackbrook Road, and we'll talk about that a little more coming up. But just to go through what we did, I'll zoom out a little bit. We did crack sealing, which is our routine maintenance on about 20,000 linear feet of roadway. We did what's called a mill Samian overlay, which is asphalt milling, that rubber chip seal application that we just showed you a picture of, and then a warm mix asphalt overlay. We did that in Blackbrook Road. This is a lower cost alternative to a full depth reclamation, which we've been doing on some other roads. But when we get into our subdivision roads, this is a little more cost effective. And we were able to do this on Julie Road, Oak Ridge, and Holly's Lane a few years ago, and it turned out very well. So we did that on Blackbrook Road. We did do reclamation on Pond Street. That was following the water main project we did the previous year. And then we did some non-pavement management improvements, including $452,000 on Main Street related to the MassWorks grant, where we did some curb line changes, new sidewalks, and mill and overlay that whole area. And then we did sidewalks on Pond Street while we were doing the work, and Black Brook Road because they desperately needed to be done. So we spent a little under $1.2 million in fiscal year 22. So, and just to give you an idea what 10 years of repairs look like, we've pretty much touched almost all the major roads in town. And what we're trying to get into is trying to get into those subdivision roads that desperately need attention. Our road surface rating is a 71, which is down from our initial rating of 74 in 2012. And we have a $19 million backlog. That really hasn't changed. It's pretty much kept right around that $19 to $20 million range. And as far as pavement management, we've spent just under $9 million during that time. And that doesn't include money that we've spent like on Main Street through a MassWorks grant, or money that's being spent on Depot Street through a state TIP project, or the work we've done on our sewer projects, like on Foundry Street, Pequannock, South Street, where that was funded by sewer. But outside of that, we've done just under the $9 million. So getting into what does anyone have any questions before I move on about what we've done or why? Great.
No.
So our proposed FY23 repairs, and I'll basically just walk through each one of them. We're proposing to do just about $1.1 million of mill SAMI and overlay. It's that same thing. We're going to mill off the top layer. We're going to install a stress absorbing membrane interlayer, which is called a SAMI, that rubber chip. And then we're going to overlay. So we're going to be doing Cosma Road, Pleasant Heights Drive, Dongary Road, Guinevere, King Arthur, Lyman Wheelock, Scotch Dam Road, and Sonia Marie Way. So that's pretty much makes up our FY23 roads. And so we should be a lot of work done this coming year, which we're looking forward to. As we moved into FY24, we have less money to spend because we don't have a local source identified yet for that money. So we're relying on Chapter 90. Chapter 90 for Easton right now is just over $700,000 a year. But in these future years, we have to allow for some design money to progress our TIP projects. And we have a few TIP projects, which I'll discuss a little later on. And that's where we have to hold some money in reserve to pay for those. But in FY24, we're looking at preventative maintenance on Chestnut Street, on Foundry Street, on a portion of Summer Street, and Union Street. And then we're going to go to that mill SAMI and overlay on Cedar Drive and Tyson Road. Then moving ahead to FY25, about the same amount, we're in the $500,000 range. We're going to do some mill and overlay on Day Street, on Barrows. Oh, sorry, Barrows will be reclamation, as well Oakland, Park Street, Hayward Street, and Bridge Street. And then we're going to round out with a little mill SAMI and overlay on Baltic Avenue. And if you recall last year's plan, we did have Barrows, Oakland, Park, Hayward, and Bridge in FY24, but because of the water mains in those areas, we want to make sure we get to replace those first. Those are 1887 vintage water mains. So we've bumped those out a year to allow us that time to get those water mains done ahead of that. And that is our overall project for the next 3 years. That's what our pavement management plan looks like. Are there any questions on that? All right.
Dave, could I just weigh in on the funding level, something that's really important. So a really good amount of work was done this fiscal year, and there's a good amount planned for the one coming up in July. One of the contributors there is that we were successfully able to get, I think, $350,000 from of state funding from former Representative Cronin for Blackbrook. So that helped us fund some of that summer work this year and roll those Chapter 90 funds for next year. Dave, I don't want to jump ahead. I see you have more slides. Did you talk about the level of chapter 90 coming ahead?
Yes, that's the next slide, Connie.
So I just wanted to give a shout out to the former rep for that. That was very helpful.
Yeah, thank you. So looking at the remaining service life is a good way to check as a, basically a gut check on what we're spending versus what we really need to be spending. And it's a simple way to look at your roads. Basically, each year, every mile of road gets 1 year older. So it loses a year of service life. We have to do things to our pavement network to add service years to it. Otherwise, our pavement will just keep declining. So in this case, Easton, we have 117 miles of roadway, public roadway. And every year, we're going to lose 117 mile years of service life. So this chart basically just shows you what we've added and what we've lost over the last few years. And in an FY22, we were able to add almost 32 mile years. And what that is, if we crack seal a 1 mile of road, we've added 2 mile years of life to the network. If we reclaim a mile of road, we've added 20 mile years to the network. So we added just under 32 mile years, but we lost 85 overall because our whole network got 117 miles older. So that just gives you some context on the cost. And what that turns out to be is just looking at the average, we need to be spending $1.7 million a year on our roadway network. If we don't do that, our road surface ratings and our overall level of service on our roads are going to go down. If we do that, they'll stay the same. Anything over that, obviously, we'll be able to make some improvements. So I have a chart that kind of shows that as well. This is what we've actually funded for pavement management over the last few years in the blue. And our red is what we're anticipating. But the green is where that target level is, in that $1.7 million right here at FY22. And then I'm escalating that out at 4.5%. You can see there's pretty sizable gap between what we're anticipating and what we need. So that's going to continue to be a problem. It's been a problem other than FY16, where we were able to leverage a lot of local money. It's definitely a big issue for Easton. I think that's something we all have to keep an eye on. And now we'll talk about other road projects. So outside of pavement management funding, we have the Depot Street construction project, which is ongoing. This started last year. The town designed it, and we did the land takings. The state is actually constructing it through the TIP process with both federal and state money. This is just over $10 million. The contractor is RJV. Last year, they were able to complete the widening of the section from Newell Circle to School Street in the installation of sidewalks. This year, they hope to do that same process from School Street to Washington Street. We'll still anticipate there'll still be some utility poles in the way. So they're anticipating the following year, which would be calendar year 2023, to do the final paving on the entire stretch, both the roads and sidewalks, and all the final touches of the project. But there'll be a lot of work going on this year, and we'll be involved, and we'll bring you updates as needed. One of the updates that we're going to be coming to you with hopefully soon will be some information on the movement of the monument. The monument at Center Street will be moved out of the intersection to the side of the intersection. It's a big item, and it's something I'm sure people are going to be very curious about how it's going to work and what it's going to look like. So as we get those updates from the contractor, we'll bring them to you so people are aware. Another project is the Elm Street Signalization. So obviously a bad intersection. We've been working on this, I think, since 2012, designing this. We've paid for the design so far, but because of the extensive work on Washington Street, we've actually asked Mass DOT to split this project up so we didn't have to design so much with Washington Street, and they decided to just take over the design for us. So they're going to pay for the remaining design going forward, which is great. This is currently programmed in the FY 2025, the FFY, which is the federal fiscal tip. And the 25% hearing will be coming up this spring. So again, that project's moving forward, which is great news. Then our newest tip project is the Foundry Street tip project. This would be going from Robert Drive to Depot and Bay Road. This is going to be a major project. This is basically our east-west quarter in town. As we know, when we did the sewer project through here, we have a tremendous amount of traffic. This really needs to be widened, have accessible sidewalks, bike lanes, things like that, because we don't want a bottleneck in our corridor. And this will include the replacement of 3 different culverts / bridges. So it's a major $15 million project at this point. We're just starting the preliminary design. So this is a ways out, but this is our next big project. The Lincoln Street Sidewalk. So this is not part of pavement management, but we are going to be using some Chapter 90 money for this. We had previously designed this Lincoln Street Sidewalk. And at the time, I think that we did this about 5 or 6 years ago. The estimate was $900,000. And that's primarily due to the crossing near Flyaway Pond. It's very cost prohibitive to widen that out and basically build a bridge to have the sidewalk on that. So we've decided to take that piece out, just make that a shared use portion for about 100, 150 feet, and then put the sidewalk in everywhere else where we can. And that's going to cost us about $450,000. But the state is funding us $400,000 through the Complete Streets funding process. So that's good. We'll be able to do that this year. Excuse me. And so before I close, this is something I've talked with Connor about. The Eastern Industrial Park. This has come up as a high priority on our pavement management system for some time now, but we have not decided to do that work because we've been waiting to get sewer into this industrial park. At some point, we have done some temporary repairs out here, but those are only temporary in nature just to keep those roads together. But at some point, this is going to be a tipping point where we actually need to do some paving out here through the pavement management system. And it's going to be pretty expensive. But again, we still haven't got anywhere with the sewer. So I just wanted to bring this up so everyone's aware of it. It's not like we've forgotten about it, but we're always anticipating trying to get sewer in before we do the roadway work. And so I just wanted to, let everyone know about that. And that's all I have for this section.
Perfect. So we'll start with you, Craig. Do you
I only have, I have one question and one comment. The comment is that you and your folks do a terrific job, David. I think that we got to keep saying that to the public so they know what the restrictions are in terms of financing and how much you guys accomplish. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
What is shared use? I didn't quite understand what the shared use.
So a shared use would be basically everyone has the right to the space. So that's the case it is right now on Lincoln Street. There's no sidewalk. So basically, if you're a pedestrian, you're allowed to use the road. If you're a bicyclist, you can use the road. But we're gonna mark that section where there's no sidewalk very obviously and show that this is a shared use area and that it might have pedestrians moving into the roadway area. And we'll put some markings on the pavement so people are a little more aware there's a chance that pedestrians will be walking there with them on the roadway.
Okay, thank you.
Jamie.
David, I just had a question about prioritization. So is that all through GIS now? You guys have kind of created what residential streets need to be, worked on in terms of priority, how bad they are, what the number, how the surface is failing?
Yeah, and that's a great question. I didn't really hit that as much as I usually do, trying to be brief, but yeah, so we use a benefit value calculation. And that takes into account the road surface rating, that engineering grade from 0 to 100 of the road, the traffic volume on that road, the cost to make the repair that's needed, and the life of that repair. And that gives us a benefit value calculation. And we basically just take the highest benefit value roads as the ones we're going to recommend. It doesn't mean it's the worst road. We have roads that have a lower road surface rating that aren't being put forth yet because maybe they're in a dead end, there's less traffic, so it just doesn't rise to the benefit value equation. But yes, we're using our pavement management system, which is GIS based, to just give us our highest priority roads. And that's why at the end I alluded to the fact that the industrial park is consistently the highest rated right now roads that we haven't got to. But we've deferred those because we're waiting for some sewer infrastructure before we put those on the plan.
Great, that's very helpful. Thank you.
Jen?
No questions. Just every time I see this presentation about the roads and the finances of it all, I get absolutely terrified. And it's just a major problem that we need to be mindful of. And thank you for the regular data-driven analysis that you and your team bring to the table, which helps make it very understandable.
Thank you.
So I'd say, other than a controversial issue, that probably the most outreach that we get from people in the community is about roads, about they're not happy with their road or things like that. And I think it's great that we have right on the website what the prioritization plan is for when these roads are going to get, taken care of. And it requires patience and money. So, people understand that. There's really no way we can do that. But with the limited funds that we've had, you take that and make it stretch so far by these really important processes, such as gradings for the roads and the order in which those are handled, and even looking at the underlay, the semi-underlay that, will work and save money. So that innovation is something that you brought when you came to the job, and using that technology and innovation has really been very beneficial. I just remember when we did the master plan, and again, when we did the charrette down in Five Corners, connectivity is something that everybody talks about. They want their neighborhoods to be connected. That Lincoln Street sidewalk is something that people have asked for years and years and years. So to be able to find a solution so that you can get from the village area up to Borderland, it's really, I'm so excited to hear that. I wish the Elm Street intersection was a little bit closer. It feels like that target keeps getting pushed out. But, I guess we still have to prioritize everything, and it can't always be the way that I want it for my street, I guess. But thank you very much for this really great presentation. And I think that the community really values the work. And when we can understand how the decisions are made and how the funding happens, it makes it a lot easier to understand the overall big picture. So thanks you for the work. All right. I think, let me see, what do we have next? You're still here for the next one, for the contract award?
Yes.
Okay. So item 9 is the Homer contracting. So we have a packet from it. We have in our packet a memo from DPW and the reference contract with Homer Contracting for the Town Hall exterior renovation project. So David, you want to talk about that?
Sure. So as part of the Town Hall restoration project, which town meeting approved $1.45 million of CPA funds previously, we've designed the project. We went out to bid. Homer Contracting was the apparent low bidder. Our architect, SSV, vetted them and recommended award to Homer Contracting for a total of $1,125,000, which includes the base plus alternates 1 and 2. We bid it with alternates because of the uncertain bidding climate. We wanted to make sure we could get a project done. And we had enough money to do the project however the bids came in. So there was 2 other alternates that are not being awarded this time, alternate 3 and 4. Here's our goal. Homer is the low on the base plus 1 plus 2 and the base plus 1 plus 2 plus 3 and 4. So we'd have no issue procurement wise if we do get funding for this. It's on the article for town meeting for supplemental funding. If and when that does get approved, we'll ask Homer to take this on as a change order to do the full scope that we anticipated. But right now we're recommending award for the base bid plus alternates 1 and 2.
Okay, great. Greg, any comments, questions?
No, I have no questions.
Jamie?
Yep, thank you.
Jen?
No questions, thank you.
I'm just really excited about this. I can't wait to see it start moving. I know you guys have done some French drain work around the building. I've seen either.
Yes, we're making a mess. And that's in anticipation of the entryway changes. There's some accessibility changes that are going to happen. And so we had to rework the drainage in that area. We thought it was a good idea to do all of the roof drains and get those and hopefully dry out the basement a little bit. So that's why we're making that mess, but it'll pay off in the end.
I know the Commission on Disabilities is very excited about the accessibility changes to the front. And, you know, it's just to see the building, the paint peeling and so forth. This is going to really be very exciting and bring that building back to its grandeur. So we appreciate that. And Craig, do you want to make the motion to award the contract?
Yeah, I move that we award the contract to Homer Contracting Incorporated for $1.125 million.
Kevin Stebbins.
So that's Barger and Stebbins
Barger, yes.
Stebbins, yes.
Stacy, yes.
and Full Janetti, yes. On to the contract award for tie and bond for a water main design, DPW 2022-23. In our packet, we have a memo referencing this for the design, permitting, and bidding associated with the annual water main projects, water main replacement projects. David?
Thank you. Yeah, so we've used Ty and Bond. They're one of our on-call consultants for water. We did an RFQ several years ago and chose 2 consultants, and they both do various water work for us. Ty and Bond has done this before. We did the Pond Street water main and some repairs on Washington Street and on Prospect Street. So we're going to continue with that. We're proposing to fund $1.5 million a year in water main upgrades, and this is just the yearly design of those upgrades. The total price is $90,000 and will be paid out of that $1.5 million that's been appropriated.
Any comments or questions?
So the 90,000 is for the design work.
Correct.
Okay.
All right. If there's no questions, Craig, do you want to make the motion?
I move that we award the contract for $90,000 for water main design work, DPW 2022-23 to Ty and Bond in the amount of $90,000.
Second, Stebbins.
Barger and Stebbins
Barger, yes.
Stebbins, yes.
Stacy, yes.
and Full Janetti, yes. Next, we have Southeastern Regional Services Group, the contract award for the Department of Public Works for Northeastern Tree Company for tree removal services. David?
I actually don't have this in front of me. This is an administrative item, so I didn't really put the memo together, but
Okay.
I
Well,
mean,
questions you have.
this is through our existing relationship with Southeastern Regional Services Group. It's a group procurement body with a bunch of other cities and towns in the area so that we can both purchase supplies, usually at a better price. Something that Dave and Todd Texera brought forward as an idea, probably much sooner than last year, but Dave, I'm remembering last year just because we've had all these, freakishly powerful windstorms. We are a tree city, which is beautiful, but it also leads to lots of trees in need of being removed. And we don't have the staff to be on top of, all of these trees at all times. So this would be getting someone on contract, with a Northeastern Tree Company out of Rhode Island to Dave basically be on call for tree removal assistance for DPW.
Correct. This is a high output type of machine that can. We've had this in town previously through National Grid, doing some storm cleanup. It's a high output machine. We did work on this collaboratively with Sursage to get this together. So in case we need to supplement our forces, we can bring them in on a per day basis and get, probably between 10 and 20 trees down on a daily basis. It's not cheap, but again, it's very productive. So if we have a long list, we can lean on them rather than our own crews when we get behind.
I think this is really smart and much needed. Sadly, with climate, with our trees, their roots are suffering from the drought and from the excess water at other times of the year, and that wind can just topple over some of our bigger trees. So I think it's something that we didn't need 20 years ago, and now we need it all the time, it seems. So Craig, do you want to make that motion?
So I'm recommending the approval of the Surges contract award for Northeastern Tree Company. But there's no dollar amount attached to it. That comes later on, David?
That it's on an ongoing basis. It's 62 to 6,400 per day. So it's dependent on use.
Okay, so moved.
Second, Stebbins.
Barger and Stebbins?
Barger, yes.
Stebbins, yes.
Stacy, yes.
And full Janetti, yes. I think that's it for you, David. You get to go now.
Perfect. Have a great night.
Thank you,
so
David.
much.
Thanks, David. Have a good night.
Okay, so the next is the discussion and vote for the proposed plan and procedure to solicit and evaluate proposals for 2 newly available Section 15 off-premises package store liquor licenses. We talked about this a little bit at our last meeting. So is Michael going to lead us through this, Connor?
I believe he is, yes.
Great.
I'm here. Hi.
Hello, Michael.
Hey, everybody. So Dottie just kind of introduced this. As you recall, you voted this temporary moratorium last meeting. Since then, we did a little research. We looked at some other communities that have done similar requests for proposals, Salem, Hudson, Air, and we put together in your packet a proposed advertisement that we would share with the paper, put on our website, social media, Chamber of Commerce, things of that nature. In brief, the plan looks like assuming your approval tonight, we would advertise the availability of the licenses and receive letters of interest through April 11th. The select board would review letters of interest and hold kind of an info session or opportunity to ask questions and interview applicants at your meeting on April 25th. Based on those interviews and proposals, you would then select 2 proposals to apply for the available licenses. And then those 2 applicants will go through the normal procedure as, posted public hearing. You approve that, and then it gets sent to the ABCC ultimately for their approval and then issuance of the license. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them.
Terrific. Craig?
Well, it's very comprehensive, Michael. Thank you very much for doing this.
Yeah, thank you, Michael.
Ben?
Thank you for all your work on this.
Yeah, I think it's very clear, easy to understand, and hopefully we get a lot of interest. So appreciate you doing this, doing the research on it as well, to see what other communities are doing. So with that, we would take a vote to, hold on a second. A vote to solicit and evaluate solicit proposals for the 2 new available Section 15 off-premise package store liquor license.
Between now and April 11th. So moved, Barger.
Second, Stebbins.
Barger, Stebbins,
Barger, yes.
Stebbins, yes.
Stacy, yes.
and full Janetti, yes. All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next, item 13, the May 16th, 2022 annual town meeting warrant review.
It is town meeting time already. So this is the first draft of the warrant. I know the board voted, I believe, in January to open the warrant and solicit articles. I believe that you have 30 some odd articles in this draft, a lot of CPA and zoning. Obviously it's spring, so you'll have the operating and capital budgets, so a lot of really detailed and important topics. But usually at this early stage, we just kind of deal with the more routine articles. So we enumerated on the agenda a handful of articles that we'll talk through quickly tonight, and I'll ask for your vote to include all of them and recommend any of them, and obviously take any questions you have as we go through. So town meeting is May 16th, 2022. It'll be held at OA, which is great. The first item on your agenda tonight is always the first item on the warrant for spring, which is the acceptance of the annual town report. This is required by charter, got to be voted on by town meeting. We're drafting a report now. It's usually ready, or it's always ready by the time of town meeting. So nothing majorly different there. I would ask that the board vote to include and recommend Article 1.
Okay, any questions? All right, Craig, you want to make the motion?
I move to include and recommend Article 1.
Second, Stebbins.
So that's Bodger and Stebbins. Craig?
Barger, yes.
Stebbins, yes.
Stacy, yes.
And full Janetti, yes. Article 3, elected officials compensation.
Same summary as Article 1. This is the exact same as it is proposed every year. It is required by Chapter 41 of Massachusetts law that the limited stipends for elected officials that we have are voted on annually. So I request that the board consider including and recommending if you choose.
I move to include and recommend Article 3.
Second, Stebbins.
Bodger and Stebbins.
Barger, yes.
Stebbins, yes.
Stacy, yes.
And full Janetti, yes. Article 4, payment of bills from a prior fiscal year. We probably don't have those bills all in yet, right?
We do not. We have none at this time, but this is just a good housekeeping article to have in the event that a bill comes up from fiscal year 21. Town meeting would need to vote to pay it. So we typically don't have any, but we always include it and we dismiss at the night of town meeting if we don't have any. So at this point, I would just ask for the board to consider a vote to include.
I move to include Article 4.
Second, Stebbins.
Bodger and Stebbins.
Barger, yes.
Stebbins, yes.
Stacy, yes.
And full Janetti, yes. Article 5, supplement fiscal year 2022 budgets.
Certainly, so same idea. Not at this time, but we always put a current fiscal year supplement on the docket in the event that we need to do so. So at this time, I would just ask the board to consider a motion to include.
I move to include Article 5.
Second, Stebbins.
Bodger and Stebbins.
Barger, yes.
Stebbins, yes.
Stacy, yes.
And full Janetti, yes. Article 6, transfer to the unemployment trust fund.
So the town maintains a variety of trust funds. One of them is an unemployment trust fund. We self-insure for unemployment. And we usually have, a 5-digit balance in there, nothing extraordinary. Due to budget cuts over the past couple of years and positions that we eliminated, we have drawn down on that recently. So this would transfer what we anticipate to be an available amount of roughly $20,000 back into that account. I would ask that the board consider to include and recommend it.
I move to include and recommend Article 6.
Second, Stebbins.
Bodger and Stebbins.
Barger, yes.
Stebbins, yes.
Stacy, yes.
And full Janetti, yes. Article 9, acceptance of easement at Foundry and Paquanticut Ave.
Sure. So this article is in anticipation of the Sawmill Village compact neighborhood that is going through permitting with Concom and Planning Board. We are anticipating that should wrap up this spring. And if that is the case, one of the components of the MOU that the developer has already executed with the select board is for a component of mitigation from traffic impact of that project is to design and construct signal and intersection and signalization improvements at Paquanticut and Foundry. We all know anyone who drives there, that's a tough intersection. This would put a traffic signal there that would get us between now and the 5 to 10 plus years before the state DOT does the actual major tip that Dave Field referenced earlier. So as part of that, the developer needs to grant easements on property that he controls on the south side of Foundry for road widening, and that is what this article would do. At this time, since it's still technically in permitting, I would just recommend a vote to include.
I move to include Article 9.
Second, Stebbins.
Bodger and Stebbins.
Barger, yes.
Stebbins, yes.
Stacy, yes.
And full Janetti, yes. Article 10, easement for National Grid installation of underground electrical utilities for the Red Mill Road water treatment plant.
This is the opposite direction. The prior article was us receiving an easement. This one is us granting an easement. This would be for underground utilities associated with the Red Mill Road water treatment plant, which is currently under construction. Property in question belongs to the town. The easement is necessary to get utilities to the building. So I would recommend inclusion and a recommendation.
I move to include and recommend Article 10.
Second, Stebbins.
Bodger and Stebbins,
Barger, yes.
Stebbins, yes.
Stacy, yes.
and full Janetti, yes. Article 13, amendment of wetland protection bylaw to include minor project exemptions consistent with the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, Regulations 310, CMR 10.
Sure. So this comes from the Conservation Commission. They have been, doing, in addition to the significant work of permitting and administering Easton's Wetlands Protection Act, taking a look at their own regulations and trying to find places where it makes sense to have some more flexibility with property owners. And this is what this would accomplish, which is that under the current bylaw, there are some certain very minor projects which would not have a negative impact on wetland resource areas. For example, a homeowner would need a permit from the commission to remove their shed from one side of the yard to the other. Another example would be repairing your deck that is already in existence and is more than 50 feet away from a wetland. Planting trees, a variety of these things all require permitting bylaw. And obviously, depending on folks' circumstance, that can be costly. And so what this would do would allow there to be exemptions ongoing for full permitting, and these minor things that don't have a detrimental impact on the environment could be reviewed administratively by our land use planner and approved with a site inspection from a professional on staff, rather than making someone go through the time and financial burden of going through a full permit process.
So they would still
I
have
think it's great.
They'd still have to come to the town. They couldn't just do it on their own, but it would be handled administratively without paying permit fees and without having to go for hearings.
Full-blown hearing and yes, with the butters notices and all of that. And this is similar to what I brought up with the other permitting, is that one of the kind of arts of permitting is, and you're a bureaucrat when you say that out loud, is you want to make things reasonable without undermining the intent of the bylaw. This also brings it into compliance. This is what, so the way the Wetlands Protection Act works in Massachusetts, there is a state level of protection of wetland protection, and then communities can adopt additional, more restrictive protections on top of that. And so Easton has a very, very strict local bylaw. And so this would just bring this component for minor projects such as a shed or your deck in line with what the state law is. So there's still regulation, there's still protection, but it is a little bit more reasonable for a property owner for such a small project. And again, hopefully the idea there is you get people to enter themselves into the process willingly.
Great, thank you.
I think it makes a lot of sense, Connor. I'm pleased that the Conservation Commission is putting this forth. So I move to include and recommend Article 13.
Second, Stebbins.
Bodger and Stebbins,
Barger, yes.
Stebbins, yes.
Stacy, yes.
and full Janetti, yes. So that wraps up what we have so far on the warrant drafts. So thanks for getting those to us, Connor. The next thing we have on the agenda is acceptance of the minutes of February 28th, 2022. Does anybody have any comments or questions on those? If not, I'll take a motion.
Move to accept the minutes of February 28th, 2020.
Second, Stebbins.
Bodger and Stebbins,
Barger, yes.
Stebbins, yes.
Stacy, yes.
and full Janetti, yes. Next is town administrator notes.
I have none prepared.
Okay, Craig, any thoughts from you?
I have lots of thoughts, but no, not tonight.
Jamie?
So the Municipal Buildings Committee voted last week on the designer for, so we're down to 2 that will be being interviewed this coming Thursday from noon to 2:30. Each will have 40 minutes to present and handle some Q&A. So it's pretty exciting. This is moving forward on the police, fire, and DPW. So any questions anyone has, be happy to answer, and look forward to Thursday's interviews.
Excellent.
That's great. When we did this on the schools, I remember it being exciting, but also very stressful. It's a huge decision. So thanks for taking this on for the board.
We're gonna have a brief period of time where we have the municipal building and school building monthly, if not more meetings on top of each other. So it's a lot, but it's good. It's a good busy. And Jamie's been awesome, and so has Andrew, the municipal building committee.
Thanks, Jamie. Jen.
I have nothing to share tonight. Thank you.
Well, I just want to pull out a couple of things that I saw that I thought would be of interest from the town crier. So just again, I'll preach this at the end of most of these meetings, is to sign up for the town crier. It's a weekly email. You can sign up for it on the town's website, and it has all kinds of great information. So there's a note in there about signing up now for a community garden plot at Wheaton Farm. So the Easton Agricultural and Conservation Commission invite you to register for a plot at the community gardens on Bay Road. There's details and costs on that in the town crier. And then also, I thought this was really interesting, conservation chats. The Easton Conservation Commission is inviting people to join them for a conservation chat on Monday, March 21st at 6:30 via Zoom. It's a half-hour discussion, and they're going to present the Conservation Commission Act. And it does require registration, and the link will be sent to registrants on the day of the event. So I think that's really great. It's really over and above the call of duty for the Conservation Commission to do that outreach to the public. So I hope that people who care about conservation issues will attend that, and I'm sure it will be recorded. So look out for that. And then finally, the Human Rights Committee is hosting a training entitled Addressing Implicit Bias in Our Daily Interactions, and it's conducted by Dr. Liza Talusan. That is going to be for free, and it's on March 31st from 6:30 to 7:30. That link is also in the town crier for registration. So there's so much stuff in the town crier. There's lots of great things going on all the time, but those three just caught my attention, and I hope people will look at those. And this is St. Patrick's Day week, so for those that celebrate St. Patrick's Day, enjoy and wear your green on Thursday. And on a more serious note, I think that we're all glued to the news about what's going on over in the Ukraine. And I think our whole board extends our thoughts and sympathies to the people over there, and just hoping for this to end soon, so that people can get back to their homes over in the Ukraine. So with that, if anybody would like to make a motion to adjourn, Craig?
So moved. Barger.
Second, Stebbins.
Barger and Stebbins?
Barger, yes.
Stebbins, yes.
AC, yes.
And Fulgenetti, yes. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you in
All right. Good night, everybody. Stay safe.
Good night.
Thanks. Have a good night.
Right.